Hello everyone and welcome in my Patternodes 3 course. If you're a generative artist looking for a tool, easy to use but full of features, intuitive, funny and experimental, Patternodes 3 is one for you. It definitely improved my creativity and workflow, and I will explain you why. Its simplicity, clearness and power allow me to focus on design and experiment and less on the technical part. It also allowed me to create what I was trying to generate with frameworks as Processing and P5.js. Plus, I love the node philosophy and I think it's a great game changer for one who wants to create complex design in a few steps. But what is Patternodes? Patternodes is a tool that helps you to create generative design as vector patterns or animations. This software's interface lets you create sequence of connected nodes which represent graphical elements and other functions. Sorry Windows user, it's Mac only. Patternodes was designed to be playful and experimental. As such, it always shows up in the preview in real time, and that's pretty awesome. The software also has an integrated help section, warnings about misuses, and even sample content and manual. And what you will find in this course: naturally based knowledge of how to start to generate design with Patternodes, main aspects of this tool and how can help your generative art process, focus of the main elements, examples and inspiration for generative design, results printed by my Exidro, and some English mistakes, because as you can hear, it's not my first language, but I wanted to share to more people as possible, and I hope that everything will be clear. What you will not find in this course: anything related to animation or patterns that can be replaced by pen plotter as fill colored shape patterns. I will exclude all that aspect, I'm sorry. You will not find code or frameworks as Processing or P5.js and complex patterns that require advanced knowledge of Patternodes. Maybe in another video in future. And what about me? I'm Alessio, web developer and designer from Italy who's into generative art. You can find me on Octopus Garden Instagram page where I post most of my prints. I bought a pen plotter last year and started to learn and experimenting with generative design. You can check my website for more info, octopusgarden.eu. Let's start to download Patternodes. The official website on lostminds.com/patternodes3. And this is the official product page of Patternodes. You can download the free to try version. It's like the full version, but when you are trying to export your file and your vectors, some parts are missing and the watermark of Patternodes is over. But for trying it, it's very good. Or you can buy it at a very special price. I think this is one of the best price for a software as Patternodes, because it's powerful and it's not so expensive, so you can buy it. And in this page you can find an overview of Patternodes, the official YouTube channel, description and inspiration on Behance. Very cool if you want to discover more styles or more way to do what you want to achieve. You can find features if you're not decided yet. It's full of features, future development. Every of these features are voted. There are suggestions. Something are implemented, something not yet. And you can find the news and updates tab with the recent news and updates of Patternodes. You can find Twitter channel of Lost Minds. You can find all the version and release. So if you're missing something or looking for some specific feature, you can find in this page and always be updated. There is support of Lost Minds, very quick response. You can go deep on Lost Minds group and see the history and about Lost Minds. After installing it, you are ready to launch it. And this is the starting file of Patternodes. the simple pattern generated, we can start seeing the voices over here, like pattern nodes, about pattern nodes, your version, your license, and all the name behind pattern nodes. You can check for updates, setting preferences if you are looking for another settings of your current settings, like interface, node settings, moving settings, and so on. You can set file defaults. I changed this value from 300 to 800 because I like to work on bigger artboards at start and not always resize it. You can set import and export options or check for software updates. Mine is the last version, so I think I'm okay for a while. And then you can hide pattern nodes, hide headers tab around pattern nodes or quick pattern nodes. And in file, you can create a new one, open an existing file, or open a recent file. You can import image for reference. You can close it, close your window, save your file, or save a copy of your file in PNDS extension. This is the extension of pattern nodes. Export or export animation. And then there is edit, where you can undo and redo, cut, copy your artboard vectors for paste on Illustrator or Inkscapes and continue your work there. You can copy just the bitmap for a quick preview, very helpful. Paste or delete, select all your nodes, duplicate your nodes, and there is nodes in this menu where you can find all nodes or manage connections. Snap nodes to grid. I find this very helpful for a cleaner work, or just arrange your nodes. If there is a messy project, you can arrange your nodes for making it ordered. And in a view tab, you can show tab bar. If you are working on more than one project, you can create a new one, work on 2 projects, 3 projects, how many you want. Or just hide tab bar if you don't need it, or show all tabs if you have a more than one project open. You can show all tabs. Play and pause animation with space. Toggle full screen preview with Command F or this button. If you need your preview in a full screen, ask for exit it. You can refresh, but with auto refresh on, we can see our pattern always refreshed. And in this tab you can find show tiled repetition if you're working on a pattern, a graphic pattern you need for Illustrator or another project. I don't use it very much because I just work on my artboard like a paper. And toggle this off. Show selection outlines, very helpful because we can see where we are working through outlines. It's very thin, so maybe some of you can see it, but if I activate these nodes, it outlines every shape these node affect. In fact, if I select transform, it outlines all my transformed shape, but we are view these nodes in detail after. Don't be scared of if you're missing something. And if I select my shape, my outline goes only to my starting shape, or if I select grid, it outlines all our shape in this grid. Maybe if I set stroke and not fill, you can see outline. Maybe you can set outline bigger in settings or preferences, I don't know. But on screen you can see it's selected. Very helpful for complex projects. If you don't know what nodes do, in this case your select and outlines are active. Show rendering info panel in the view tab. Very helpful if you want to see all elements and render sides. If I zoom out render sides, it's quicker and smaller. If I hide, all of my elements are rendered 0, we will see artboard very quick. And in rendering information, you can have a technical overview of your rendering information. Very helpful if you're working on complex projects. And you can fit preview to your screen. If you resize it, you can fit your screen at every size, or you can just hit fit and it fits your screen with some margin. Zoom in, zoom out. You can do this by pressing Alt and scroll with the wheel of your mouse. I'll see if I zoom out, I see my outlines better. In fact, if I select grid, I see all my shapes selected, or if I click on change transform, I see all the shapes these nodes in particular affect. Very, very helpful. And in the window, you can set the window, minimize it, zoom it, toggle your preview panel in a separate panel, not attached at the bottom of your node interface. If you work with your iPad, you can bring this to your iPad or your second screen. Very helpful in some cases. I work always with this in my second screen. Or you can press this button for bring it back at bottom. Move to other screens or iPad in my case. Bring all of your windows of Patternodes to front and see all your projects over here. In this case we have just one project open and this is the selected one. If you use Illustrator or Photoshop, you have some familiarity with some of these commands and functions, but you can find all the command here. In the help tab, it's very helpful. You can find the getting started page, where is a quick view of Patternodes if you're missing something, if you want to refresh quickly your memory for something, if you forgot something, you can look at this quick preview. And in help tab you can find node reference list. I just go with a quick overview of this, but we will use very often here. You have the list of all of your nodes, of all Patternodes nodes. Bad word joke. You can find all the specific and detail for every node existing, and one of the powerful things, you can find the example of a selected node. If I select shape rectangle, I can find all the nodes where shape are used. Or if I select text node, I can find all examples files where text are used. And this is very helpful if you're starting with it or missing something or go deeper on something. But we can see this after. You can open a Patternodes manual if you want to go deeper, and there is a very well written Patternodes manual. And then there is sample file folder. We see these files before in node references lists. So you have the sample file selected by nodes here, or you can find all nodes here with a quick preview. Very useful, I think, if you want to start from a base from these files. There is 2 folders, tutorials or examples. There is so much resource to use and start. You can open and copy and paste these nodes on your current project. If you want something from this pattern or this pattern. Very amazing. And you can find future development plans and voting page. We have seen it before in the official website. The history page, version history page, super page, Twitter, technical information, or send just feedback or bug report. And this is the menu of Patternodes. You can, if you are getting lost, you can find everything here. The nodes panel, we have our nodes. We can move it, arrange it how we prefer. There is artboard where output of our design are rendered. You can find 3 main layer, rename your layer. You can move down, move up, delete it or duplicate it if you want something complex. It's like Photoshop or Illustrator. You can set your artboard size to another dimension. You can unlink the proportional scale and go for rectangle artboard. Or you can set again the proportional scale, scale it, scale down. I always work on square. I don't know why, but I'm comfortable with that. You can align your content to artboard where you prefer, as in Illustrator, if you use it. In fact, in my position here, doesn't work with align content on. If I deactivate, it goes at the very start of my artboard. And if I set here position, I can see my pattern moves around. I always use align content because it's very comfortable. And you can set background, toggle off or activate your background. I always use the white one, but you can set the color you prefer. I use white for more clarity of my design. Even if I will print it on a black page, I use always white. And this is the artboard node. And there is our nodes here. But before go with the node module, we will see preview interface. The cool thing about Patternodes is its real-time changes and auto-refreshing. In fact, if I resize my rectangle, it changes in a couple of milliseconds. It's very cool because you can go quick to other design, change everything you want in real time. Maybe the cool thing is a real-time manipulative tool. I don't know how to call it, but if you click in a value field, like in this case angle, to transform in my grid, you can move your mouse by clicking the left and dragging your mouse around, or just scale it. So nothing to do with numbers. Patternodes is not just numbers and nodes, but is also this cool feature. I use it always when I'm stuck in some design. I just randomly click on this field and go with my mouse. Very experimental and free, and very cool feature. Okay, this is the preview interface. We have seen already how to put our panel in another zone of our monitor, or in a second monitor if you have it. I prefer always to put in my second monitor, but in this case I will use here above. So this is the interface. We can fit, if you are zoomed too much, you can zoom out by scrolling this wheel, or fit to our screen, or go to full screen. Ask for exit, and now we are ready to see the nodes. And if you click with your right click on your node panel, you can find add node. So let's start to see shape. The shape node can allow us to create a basic shape. You can create a rectangle or a square in this case. You can set different width and height. Oh, my cat is arguing about that. Maybe you can very quick with width or height selected, go with mouse and change over here. You can set rotation, you can set color or stroke. We will work just with strokes in this case, because we are focusing mainly in pen plotter generative art for pen plotter, sorry, and we can't print fill with pen plotter, but we can print strokes. So we are working with strokes. We can set widths, set caps and joints, like square, round, if you want smooth. Let's set this to 2 so it's visible. You can't set position in this case because of align content we have seen before, and it automatically set at the center in this case. In fact, position is 400, the half of our hardboard size. And you can create ellipse, an oval in this case, and a very cool feature that you can find in Patternode. You bring your current setting in other in other nodes while changing it. In fact, it's not creating a new one, but a rectangle. Very cool for experimentation. If I want to change very quick my shape, I don't have to rewrite all these values every time, but it takes what was in the precedent, like in this case. We can go with oval, we can go with a perfect circle. Oh, we don't need this now. You can change to right triangle, set the angle, or just height and width. You can change it to parallelogram and set a shift, or just select trapezoid. Now you see it take the shift I used in my parallelogram in trapezoid. It's a for me it's a very cool feature, because it allows us to be more experimentative and go quick in our design. You can generate a polygon and set sides. With shift and button up or down, you can increment this by 10. Very helpful if you want something quick, 20, 30. But you can find this command in most of application. You can set to 8 and set a diameter, a smaller polygon. You can set rotation like this, or you can change it to a star if you like stars. Change sides, the outer diameter and the inner diameter, and set a rotation or deactivate it. Very cool, stars. And the last shape is arc. You can find inner diameter, the main diameter, and the angle. In fact, if we set at 180, we can do a semicircular shape, a semicircular arc wedge, sorry. We can set rotation for our shape. In this case I have to modify my pivot point, but we can see this after. So this is the main shapes of Patternodes. In the elements menu you can find a text element, very cool for typography. If you want to write something like my name and choose the font from your library, this is my existing font installed. You can choose through your favorite fonts, set the font size, activate the box mode if you need to make your font in a box for more precision. You can set alignment, the line 8 like in a typography panel, and you can set rotation. No, this is position, sorry, but nothing changes. You can set rotation, you can set opacity. In fact, if I go in 0 on opacity fill, this is what will be printed. The box will not be printed because I can see these elements here. In fact, my name is composed by 7 letters, so this is not rendered officially. so will not be printed or exported in your design. We can write what we want. Why so small? Or maybe just so big. Okay. And so this is the text element. If you want to create a pattern with typography, or if you are into typography, this is a very cool node. And then you can import an SVG. I have created one before. Is right here on my desktop. You can take, drag and drop here. Okay, let's scale it. It's too small. This is a path that I draw in Illustrator. You can set rotation as other shape, fill and stroke. You can set the width of your custom shape and use in your design. And you can import SVG or PNGs or JPEG. You can import what you want. Nothing will stop you. You can import line shape, the most simple shape because it's just 2 points. You can set the length and the stroke, not even the fill. Line are just simple. I like very much lines. I use in all my recent prints. And this is the all elements you will find. This node is for an advanced course because it permits you to build complex shapes and complex patterns. Maybe we can see in another video, or you can discover it by yourself. So, change nodes. It allows you to transform the pivot point of your shapes, align your shape. You can transform color, opacity and stroke if you need. And you can create a clipping mask or make seamless patterns, or just replace in some point your shape. We can start to see transform, but first add a shape, scale it, and we can transform it by just drag our nodes and transform, and drag transform node into our artboard. Okay, so in this case it's set on rotation, and it does the same thing in rotation here, but in some cases it can be very, very helpful in some of your patterns. Let's see all the transform options. They are basically the same as our shape option, like offset. We can set an offset, but in this case will not work because of align content. We can deactivate just for this case. You can set an offset, another scale. No, too much. This will double your width and 8, or just resize, adding or subtracting pixels from your current shape. In fact, if I want to make it 50 pixel smaller, I can subtract it from there. And if we need a rotation, we can set rotation, the angle of our rotation here. So transform will transform your shape and set it in a new aspect. We can see a cool use of transform by doing this. Okay, so nothing is printed because it's nothing linked to my artboard. Simple, very simple. And in fact, Patternodes notifies me. Very kind, Patternodes. It says to me that no graphics are connected to artboard layers, so nothing will be shown. And you can find every error message on this right side. Show it or hide it. So let's see how transform can be useful to us by linking our top layer to our main shape and then connect our middle layer to transform and connect transform to our shape. It duplicates itself with a scale and rotation, and this can be very helpful and very cool for some design. If you just want one shape and one transform node, you have two shape, a price of one. You can scale it, rotate it. Very cool. Oh, I can adjust this just by selecting my angle value, and then with mouse I can adjust it perfectly. A little bit trippy. Cool. And then in the change node we can set another pivot point to our shape, so this is not rotated by the center or scaled by the center by change its pivot point. But we can do this in this way. Just right click on this connection or another connection and select pivot point. It will be placed between our two nodes. Very useful. I just want to arrange my nodes. No, bad idea. Okay, so we can change pivot point. We can set pivot point to top left, and this will be rotated by stacking it at top left. We can set a custom offset. We can bring our pivot point where we want. I can place there or there or there, or just use the default pivot point settings. Pivot point, it's very useful for manipulate perfectly your shapes and its origin. And so this is the pivot point. We can change the pivot point of our main shape. In fact, I can right click here, select pivot point and change it. Nothing will change, but if I rotate it, will be rotated by considering this its origin. You can use how many pivot points you want. Very cool. And this is the pivot point. Delete this. Set this middle right. Very minimalistic and contemporary. Fit our preview. Okay, cool. Next, we will see quickly a line. maybe in an existing file, group selection. Okay, don't be scared about all of this. We will see just the align node. In fact, this align node align in this case our mask. If we change alignment for a specific element, we can just drag our line node here. Very useful if you're doing something complex and not using align content. Don't save it. And then you can use a clipping mask. A clipping mask is very cool for your patterns. I discovered it recently, and I go with a demonstration of it after. Just remember me this. We can make a seamless pattern. I will use a node reference existing file for a demonstration. So this is a seamless pattern. In fact, our patterns doesn't cut right here. If I deactivate it by checking this box, it will be cut perfectly, but not naturally, as in this case. So we can set the seamless at the position we prefer, and this will not be cut and continue naturally. Very useful if you're making some patterns like this and don't want to cut at your artboard. You can activate your repetition here for complex patterns like this. Whoa, there's so many ants, so much scaring. Don't save. Next node will be replace. In this case, we will see it in an existing file. Okay, so replace, just replace our shape with another shape we want, just by connecting our second shape at this. So if we are making a radial with a square, we can say to replace every third. In fact, okay. In fact, 1, 2, 3, there is this circle. We can apply to all. We can apply to half, maybe with even squares, or quarter. You can replace your existing shape with another shape by using replace change. It changes your shape inside a grid, a radial, or random. Very useful. So let's see the repeat nodes. So this was the change node. We have seen transform pivot point by changing origin of our shape, align mode. We will not see this because it's mainly focused for pen plotter artists, this course, or generative artists, but you can go deeper by yourself and discover it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can change color of your shape, opacity, stroke. Clipping mask, we see this after grids. for a cool result. We have seen make seamless and replace node. Now we are ready for the repeat node. Shape. I want to change our shape to a polygon. 6 side is cool. Scale it by selecting sides here and move our mouse. Perfect. And add by clicking right click on the connection and add node on connection. We can add the transform node, and this node will transform and duplicate how many times we want our shape. Set the stroke by fill, and in this case will be setted. Each step takes 40 pixels on X axis and 40 pixels on Y axis. And if we set this to 0, will be repeated in the same place of our shape, our base shape. We can scale, and each step will be scaled by 0.9, 0.9, 0.9, 0.9, or resize, adding or subtracting some pixels. I want to subtract all steps by 20. In fact, every steps will be 20 subtracted by 20, or rotate over every steps by 45. We can just add shapes and set rotation. Okay, so maybe we can use a scale in this case, okay, for better spacing, or use auto spacing based on artboard size. Too much for me. Or we can set the repetition area with an 8, and will be repeated in this area. But for now we can deactivate it and just use a scale, not offset. Okay, we can set offset just by dragging our mouse around it. It's like 3D. It's very awesome. It's stunning for me. We can increase size of our base shape or decrease it. 7 sides is okay. Decrease diameter, increase it. Select scale. For scale, or maybe this with mouse, it's too complicated. Rotate it. We can change our shape. In real time will be rendered. Oh, I forgot to reactivate my render panel. I was missing it. Okay, so this is counted 14. In fact, element rendered is 14. Obviously, you can change to rectangle. You can change to every shape you want, every settings you want. And this is the repeat node on transform. You can deactivate, disable it by click this. I can't zoom it, but you can see a circle with check icon here, and you can click to disable momentarily. You can add node after with this menu, and all settings about nodes and connection. You can find it here. So this is transform. Now we can add a grid, but first we have to create an ellipse, a perfect circle. I want 5 count, no rotation, no offset, just a circle with circles in it. Okay, just scale this a little bit. Okay, and now we can add a grid we have seen in the starting file, but we go deeper now. And the grid basically repeat around rows and columns our shape. So activate align content. You can set how many columns you want, how many rows you want. You can proportionally decrease columns and row, or just auto count, selecting a spacing. So this is useless because I made this so much bigger. Okay, better. You see? Cool. This auto count, we have set grid spacing, but using the artboard size. So we can deactivate this and set our preferred size with 600 pixels and 200 pixels of margin. And this is grid. You can set brick pattern, you can set hex pattern, and set the spacing, or is auto count. Okay, you can set spacing around shapes without auto count, or just auto spacing activated. Extra settings can be useful for some of you because it short odd rows and remove last. It will works with brick and hex pattern. And this is basically grids. You can change when you want the base shape and create new grid. You can save your settings, and this you can save this template by clicking Command Shift S, and you can save a copy. Transform plus grid. You can set another shape. Wow, so much shift. Cool. You can change transform here, maybe on rotation, maybe less. Okay, going straight. Cool, very cool. And this is the grid. After grid you can see something similar to grid, and I'll show you replacing the grid node by clicking this menu button, replace node with a radial. In fact, it creates a radial around a perfect circle. It's like grid but works with circle basically. And we can set our diameter. Okay, so my wheel went crazy and set this to 0. We can set our diameter to 600. We can just add more elements to our radial. We can set a circular, cool curve, setting an angle, offset, or setting multiple layers. This is a new features of this last version. You can create mandala or something like this. Very cool. And okay, let's take this to full circle, and you can set your count where you want. 0 if we want the same count, 0 to angle offset if you want to this as similar as possible. Okay, so if we want between layers an offset, you can set it here. Just add some. Very cool. It's like an explosion to me. We can continue adding shapes to transform repeat node for a psychedelic trip. We can change our shape to another one shape. Use scale. I like Patternodes because allows us to be very experimental, and I think experimental is very close to pen plot art, because you're not always know what you're doing or what you're expecting, but just by twitching these settings you can find something cool that makes right for you. Okay, so let's create a mandala or something like that with another radial inside, and we can do this by selecting all with Command A and Command D to duplicate it. Bad idea because it duplicates artboard too. So select just this tree, and with Alt we can duplicate it connected to the same layer. You can connect to the middle layer for more clarity. We will not use the transform repeat for our second circle inside because there is so much shapes just with this. We can change our shape to a rectangle, a boring rectangle, and resize it, resize the diameter, maybe add a layer because we are crazy, and set an offset to this layer. So there it is, our geometric mandala. I know mandalas are not like this, but when I see something circular and radial, my mind goes always with mandala. I use this when I'm stuck with something, I just want to just experimenting, when I don't know what I'm looking for in my next design, and this can be helpful. So with an ellipsis, cool. It reminds me of flower. And this is the radial node. Very awesome. And for last repeat nodes, not the last, the random node. Transform node. Repeat our node in parameters that we can set right here, and Grid node repeat our element in a grid with columns and rows that we can set in these parameters with grid spacing. And radial node repeats our element in a radial pattern. Random node take our shape and will repeat it in a random way. We can set our repetition area, like rectangle area or radial area. And we can set an area size or a radius. So we can set this to 100 for a bigger radius, and will be repeated in a random way. We can set a minimum spacing between the center of each elements, repeated. We can set a rectangle and set an area size. And if we want to print more of these shapes, random nodes notifies us that's too many overlapping shapes, and with our area size can be placed all these elements. You can set repetition area as our arbor size. You can change the seed of our random node, and each step will print a random different pattern. So this is random node. A cool thing you can do with random node is to replace some shape inside your random pattern. So we can add our rectangle, scale it a bit, just adding stroke and remove fill. Add the random pattern, decrease the area and the count using okay, perfect. And we can duplicate our current shape by okay, so you can navigate now now that we are saying more patterns, we need more space, and you can navigate your interface just clicking your mouse wheel and the hand will appear, and clicking you can navigate it. Sorry if I didn't said it before. So you can just click on Alt and duplicate your shape and add a replace node. Replace node will be connected to random and replace to artboard, and we will replace with an ellipse my random. You see, if you click on shape, second shape, you can see your circle outlined. If you click on the square, you can see your on random, you can see your random square outlined. You can just scale this. You can decide to select just the third randomly always. Change seed of your random output. Random. There's something better? I don't think. And maybe you can add a more nodes. Let's see. Let's go experimental with this. We have seen change, we have seen repeat. We can add a transform, maybe. A grid and radial. It's too much. I can add a transform to this. I can just scale it, and okay, in this case, for a better view and better comprehension of our design, we can add a stroke here, and we can set maybe I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't use it very much. I would just want to increase the second transform. Don't know if it's possible. It takes all, but okay, never mind. Just ignore this. We can unlink it and bring this here. In fact, I want to transform my circle and scale it inside, or maybe an oval. I just want an oval, a scaled oval inside, more, and set a rotation around this oval. Nice. We can duplicate transform. Too complicated, just add from here transform, and we can transform the scale. Why is everything shifting? Because not so smart, because I have to add, sorry it's late, I have to add this here. Okay, nice, not the offset, just the scale. Okay. And okay, replacing, apparently we'll shift our design. How we can put this right? Nope, absolutely not. So maybe you have to switch some values, maybe align content off, and just position your shape. And here. Okay, nice. Maybe align content is pieced of our many nodes. Okay, so my result is pretty simple, but you can do better exercising between these nodes. Next will be mirror node. Mirror nodes let us to mirror our shape. I didn't use it very often, but in recent updates of Patternodes, it improved very well. I will show you with a simple shape as maybe a polygon, a bigger polygon, and then add a mirror node. We can find mirror nodes in repeat nodes, mirror, and it will mirror our shape based on this line. In fact, this portion will be the same as this portion. If I rotate it will perfectly mirror, and I can set an offset of mirror in pixels, like 100 pixels, and will be offset 100 pixels. I don't know if you can see, I will increase my width. You can choose to clip elements or just duplicate it. In this way, you can change it. You can set an angle of mirror. You can always see our mirror just here, and you can decide to set multiple mirror planes. In fact, you can set 2 mirror planes and will be 4 portions, or just 3, 4, 5, and so on. You can adjust your shape. Here it is, a perfect geometric flower, and you can change when you want your shape and just shuffle your ideas around these nodes. Very cool node. I will promise to use it more because it's very powerful if we figure it out how it works. Here a geometric pizza. We can set a line instead of a shape. We can create a sort of snowflakes. I don't know how to call it, but it reminds me some snowflakes. And we can combine more shapes. In fact, if I link my rectangle and then add a circle, it will be mirrored with my rectangle. And if I scale it and set a stroke, let's scale it. Very cool, right? Let's set back our polygon. You can also toggle off perpendicular and set a different offset of each element. Or link our X to Y axis. And creating patterns through this awesome node. Very cool, I have to use it more often. And what next? Okay, before start to see about group operations, a really interesting group of nodes that allow us to modify deeply our pattern with dynamic value, with something really awesome. I use this in every pattern. Apply function that allow us to apply some function to our design that affect scale, offset, and other values. Let's start to create something with just these 3 group of nodes and ready to print. Very simple in freestyle way. I don't have anything in my mind. I don't know what will come up. And I set my artboard at the A4 size. This is the aspect ratio for A4 paper. And let's add some element to it. Like a rectangle, we just stroke as we've seen before. And I don't know, I want to create some grid with rectangle, with ellipses. Let's see how we can do it. Just add grid. Till now it's equal to our standard starting file, maybe with more grid. 2 rectangles. Let's just scale it. Let's add to grid. Before grid, we can add a transform that allow us to repeat and transform our starting shape. An offset, maybe some rotation inside it. Maybe 3. Okay, something like this. It's very Christian pattern. It reminds me some church floor. Cool. Maybe with 15. Okay. Maybe bigger rectangle and smaller grid. More spacing. So we set the repetition grid area at these sides, and nothing can be rendered over these sides. So if we want more spacing, it auto adjust it, and if we want less grid spacing, it add automatically, and this is really useful. Okay, 80, it's cool. Maybe a little scale. Okay, like this. Is it's like optical illusion, because it seemed to shifting our artboard, or it's just me, I don't know. So let's set this to 1, 2. I think it's correctly inside our sides. No, we don't want to resize. Offset. Oh, cool. So I'm just experimenting around this value for create something, and I don't know why. I don't know what. Maybe I don't know why too. And add some count. I like this one. It's like falling here, and with grid it's all connected. Okay, so let's these two shape correctly coinciding. Perfect. I use my skateboard in this case for more precision. Okay, I like this one, and I will export with Command E and SVG format. Let's save this here. exercise number 1. This will be printed. After you will see this printed. Maybe add some offset. I don't really know. Maybe with a brick. No. 20. No. Just Y offset. And no scale in this case. Okay, something is overlapping correctly, something not. Maybe just 5 and straight grid. Let's set less spacing. And 100, it's cool. 60 or 80. $65 will be cool. Awesome. I export this one too. A little variation from that one before. And let's use some replace, like replace. Let's see what happens if we connect replace to grid. Okay, no, it doesn't work. Okay, so it replaces all this. I just want to replace. Nothing's changed. Strange. But it's working here. A triangle. Let's use line content, it's on. Let's set this to a minor grid area. It's strange, but I like it. Maybe replace doesn't have to be connected here. But if I connect here, I don't like it. So Command Z in this case. Just save this one. I was liking the pattern before, replace. Bad idea, my bad, sorry. Okay, now replace. Maybe another time. And then transform, scale, we used scale. Let's try to set a radial for another pattern. Okay. Let's add. Sorry. Okay. I like the circle shape and the rectangle contrast shape in this case. maybe with the previous scale. Okay, just like disappearing. Like this. I like it, but maybe with ellipses or triangle. Let's try some different shape. Okay, I like parallelogram. We can export this. If I don't rotate element, it's cool. Like a modern ring. I like it. So let's save it. And maybe before transform, we can add another transform for more fun. And just scale the X. Rotate elements. Good idea, bad idea, I don't know. Let's just experimenting. So half of this outer shape. Another rotation would be cool. In the upper side, maybe like this. 90. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, cool. That's reminds me some church floor of some strange church, obviously. Let's change shapes. This one is cool. Maybe changing something here or here or here. Whoa. Let's just overlap this. Scale. Deactivating this could be nice, but it's like the cycle of Saturn for me. This maybe we just have to change shape in this case. Oh, cool, polygon. Let's just freestyle. Left side. I don't know, but I like it. Let's export this. what can do our star for us. Nope. Going back with rectangle. Maybe not transform, but replace with grid. Bad idea or good idea? We know. Who knows? Nice texture, maybe too much. Let's just toggle something randomly. Okay. Let's count. No rotation, just resize. Let's count here. It's like a logo for solar panel. I don't know. A bad logo, obviously. Maybe this. Cool. I will export it. And let's just finish with the last. We can replace this with random. Whoa. It's like matrix and Patternodes. No random node, it scares me. Let's add just another grid after another grid. Bad idea. Replace this with transform. Cool. From a far view it's good, but looking close, it's too bad, maybe. No offset on X. I like this one. Maybe just resize the repetition grid area. Nice. Let's see with scale. Better. And with angle. We created something really similar to this before. So what was before this? Let's export this. Cool. So we saved some of our exercise, like this one, this solar panel bed logo. This one, this, and I can print it all of this with my pen plotter and show you the result. Good one. I like this. With perfectly overlapping these two. It's cool. It's cool for me. Okay, so next, some fun with group operations nodes. After see repeat nodes, change nodes, and elements nodes as shapes and lines, we will see group operations, and I will show you creating first a grid to apply our functions, and I will create just a simple grid. As you can see, just activate auto spacing. Oops. Nope. Okay. Beautiful grid. Let's decrease this. More of columns and rows. Smaller. Perfect. As you can see, this is a simple grid with 35 for 35. A lot of squares. And these squares can be manipulated through a function. And this function will apply will be applied on a scale, on a x scale, y scale, x offset, y offset, and rotation based on our element's position. So, for example, if we set x position to our function input, our squares based on x-axis will be modified. So this first column will be scaled down to 0.5, and our last column will remain the same because this is just 1. But if we set this to 2, you can see this will be scaled to 2 points, so 26 for 26 pixels, and our middle column will be 13 for 13 pixels. Because it's in just here, that's 1, but we can apply and generate a more transformation function as squared function or cubed function. So our transformation will follow this curve. It's very simple visually. It's more complicated for explaining it because I'm not at all a mathematician or a physician. I don't know if physicians do something like this. We can apply sine or cosine function, is function, and the interesting thing is we can set periods. As you can see, we can set offset, and our function will be modified in real time, and we can apply this transformation on various parameters as x scale, as I said before. In fact, you can see just scaled on x axis. In this case, let's set this to 1 periods and this to linear, 0 offset. Okay, as you can see, this will be scaled down on x-axis to 0.5, and this will be scaled up to 2 points on x-axis. So we'll be always 13 pixels 8, but will be with the double, so 26, yes. And our square in the middle will be just the same, because our original rectangle is placed somewhere here, I think. Okay, so let's see some other interesting function. Let's activate just for this case the fill, so you can see better, and just scale down this. More columns. Okay, so we can set this transformation on X scale, Y scale, as I said before, and offset. So our X offset will be expressed in pixels here, 200 pixels, and the minimum 0 pixels. And if we modify periods, we can see our pattern modified. We can set on rotation. So if we set this to 90 and this to 1, you can see this rotating by 45 degrees, and this will just 90 degrees. Or we can set this to 180 degrees. So it will rotate twice, or 360, and will rotate 4 times. We can modify periods. We can modify offset. We can modify the shape. On ellipses you can't see rotation, but you can see something like scale. Too much. On scale X. It's, as I said before, very funny to use, because you can try many values, many parameters. Very cool to use, and I use very often in my works. And there is also square wave. You can navigate by yourself, but I want to show you my favorites. And this will be like a square wave, following the square wave pattern, where is flat on top and flat on bottom. No half measures. I like noise linear because it creates some noises. You can change function input, and you can smooth the noise for a better resolution. I'm just doing this in freestyle. I'm just moving and twitching things. And you can set this on pivot distance. It's a very cool function because it's based on pivot point. So our pivot point, it's something in here, but if we add to this another pivot point, we can change this pattern, and I will show you. So, setting pivot point in bottom center, we'll take this 0 offset, we'll take this to the minimum and the other in a circular wave to the maximum. So very easy to understand visually, very difficult to explain it, but I think you got it. And you can set a custom offset, just taking this. Whoa. You can set this here based on Y scale or offset. I don't see any change. Okay, I got it. So very interesting node that can permit you to reach some cool design. You can twitch around these parameters and just go in mad mode and create something very randomly. I like very much apply function nodes. Cool. So let's take back this to index. And you can see so many examples in node reference help section as radial beam gradient. You can modify and try your way. It's cool to apply function on a radial for a circular pattern. Okay, let's create something interesting with these nodes. Set a pivot point on center. I just want to create something with squares. 4 periods, 0 offset. On pivot distance and Y scale. Cool, right? Let's add some rows and columns. I will save this. We can try to with another shape as ellipse. Now next scale. Very smooth. We'll export this too, and we can try by yourself to experiment with functions and try so many possible waves. You can set what comes in your mind and try. a very half-tone pattern. Cool. I'll take this one. Apply graphics. And as apply function can manipulate our elements, but based on infos of our image and datas. Okay, think about an image in a grayscale where black points are this value and the white points are this value. Every middle range colors as light gray and dark gray is somewhere over here. So in this case, this is the white zones and this is our black zones, but I will show you for more clearance. In fact, if I use an image I generate with Dolly, I don't know if you use it, I think it's revolutionary for my process because I'm always thinking on a specific scenario or a specific picture I have in my mind, and I just generate it with a prompt. So let's import this to our project and connect my image to this node. So this will take in consideration data from our image. Let's scale the image. Now it's something is somewhere over here. Let's scale and scale. Too much. Okay, position it. Okay, you can start to see our set angel. Let's scale. Okay, perfect. And just add columns and rows for more resolution. And as you can see, this is our image where black parts are the maximum value and the white parts are the minimum value. So if we set this to 1, black parts will increase. And if you set this to 0.5, will be the half of our current shape. So apply graphics, just take our image, take data from this image and manipulate our elements with infos based on our image. And this is very cool because you can create various patterns based on image. I have something as this. Look, a very cool effect. I love this effect. In fact, I use in a lot of my last works. I use it very often with circles, with squares, with triangle. And in many ways you think you can use your image and apply to your base. We can apply scale, X scale, or Y scale for some cool effects. You can set an offset. Something went wrong. So you can set an offset. It's somewhere our angel maybe. Let's decrease this and increase this. So you can see our angel. It's like 3D or Y offset. Yes. And you can use rotation, maybe with rectangle. You can see better. Too much columns. Very subtle. Okay, let's set our previous image. Okay, so I generated a lot of angels recently for my last project. You can see something on my Instagram page if you are interested for a final result. Oh, this is very cool. Maybe I save it. I will take this. And you can use it with landscape images, portrait images, abstract images. At first, I always used abstract images because it has so many abstract shapes and colors, and I like the final result of that. And now I'm using it for this style of portrait. So this was Apply Graphic. Show me your works if you want with these nodes or other nodes. You can see some example here like this, a very cool effect, and with this I discovered how to use Apply Graphics. Very cool. Or this. Oh, this is animated. Huh. Very cool. And you can use how you want. Just try it and have fun with it. And another cool node that we can use in some cases as this. Let me change the image. Let's set this. Okay. And as I was saying, another cool node that we can apply to just render a portion of or some elements of our pattern is select. In fact, this will select our element and just render what we say in this window. So in this case, we'll render just the half of our grid, or a third of square of our grid. Let's scale just a bit this. Okay, you can see better. Or a quarter of our element, random elements, pure chaos. And I like to use this with mask. In fact, we can select using graphic masks, and we can create a circle and set it as our mask. It's a bit disordered, but I hope you can understand. So we can scale this to 600. and just position it at the center. It's a bit slow because so many elements and so many calculus, but here it is, our pattern rendered on what we want to render, and in this case based on a graphic mask. Okay, well, let's scale down this a bit. And position at center. Scale down our rectangle. Better. And just adjust the center. And so, as I said before, it will render just what we want to render with select element. We can transform this to other mask with some other shapes. Is it cool, right? A bit slow, my bad, but very cool. You can try as many solutions as possible with this method. And I find very cool for create something as frames in this case. And we can use letters for graphic mask. Why not? Let's connect this. Let's set this bigger. Maybe bolder. Let's see if I something very bold. Maybe V. Very cool. Okay. And we can just adjust other parameters when we want. Nothing can stop us because it's real-time rendering. I think this is perfect for that time of the year where everyone are posting typography. It's 36 challenge. I can't remember the name, but you understood, I think. And this is select node. And another node, one of the last node we're going to see in this course. It's something similar to apply function, and it's explode. So explode will just move around our pivot point like explosion, right? Is self-explaining, and we can decide the fall-off of our explode pattern. We can set a minimum offset and a maximum offset, and we can create some very cool patterns. Very simple to understand, but very funny to use. Let's exaggerate this. And it's all based, oh, it's too chaos now. Okay, better. And it's all based on pivot point, as we have seen before. In fact, if I set my pivot point on top left, everything will move and explode following my top left pivot point, or top center. Let's adjust a bit. We can decide our pivot point. You can see, very cool. And adjust the fall-off for effect as you prefer. You can set a maximum of distance, an offset. You can apply this to the half of our elements, so the other elements will be the same, and the half will follow the explosion. In fact, as you can see, it's a very cool effect, right? It can be applied to the third. Whoa. A quarter, a single, a random. It's very experimental. I will set this to half because I was liking the half pattern. And let's set this to 100, a 50 to max distance. So the half of our squares will be in the same place and the other half will follow the explosion. But if we apply this to all, it will be all exploded. And the last node we will see in group operation nodes is randomize. Is pretty self-explanatory, randomize, because it will random things here. So let's see some examples. It will random our rotation in a range, in a specific range, or just scale it. Oh, very cool, this I want to take. And export for maybe a future print. Very cool. When random comes on, it's very funny to see. We can set random scale, not proportional. We can set an offset. Very cool. Let's double it and apply to the half.
So it will random just the alpha of our columns and rows. I don't know what deep change do. If you know, just tell me. You can set the seed of our randomization as we have seen before. You can apply to every third of our square. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or quarter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, or just random. Random on randomize. What could go wrong, right? And we can count the elements in sequence to be counted. We can decide how many elements in sequence that are skipped with no change applied. So every 20 elements, every 50. You can decide this. And this is random. Pivot point, it's useless in this case. You can change shape when you want for more patterns. And this is randomized node. Very funny to use. And these were randomized nodes, the last nodes of group operations that we will see. You can just explore the other nodes as flatten, randomize color, arrange node, and align by yourself. You can have some fun and tell me what you find. I have to be honest with you, I'm not the best teacher that can explain you math, but I can show you some cool nodes that can improve our patterns with math and math operation. In fact, if we go at the bottom of our menu, we have values and value operations. Here we can find some nodes that will define a specific and static number, while here we can set various operations like simple math, like adding or subtracting a value, more complex operations. We can find a value list that outputs a value from a list based on an index value. We can set a round, a remap, or a cap. And I will start to show you value, a simple number that we can change. In fact, if I want to externally control sides of my polygon, in this case, I can connect these two nodes and I can set sides right here. If I increment or decrement this value, my sides will change because it's connected to this specific value. And it's cool to use in a complex pattern where we want to have some key values on watch. In fact, I can change by double clicking the name of these nodes. I can name it like sides. I can have another value that can change my rotation. So if you prefer to have a clean panel, you can use value as this. And let me show you some reference. In fact, if I take this, so this is a dynamic clock, and we can set hour and minute right here. But in fact, if I set this to 10, we show 10 hour, and if I set this to 45, we show 45 hour, and this can be controlled by just these two values. In this particular case, you can see other math nodes that can be included in a design like this, and this will change rotation of hour bar, minute and hour bar, just by this operation. So math can be fun sometimes, especially in Patternodes tree, that can allow us to make something dynamically change, scalable, and simple. Let's see simple math in action, and I want to show you with a pattern that comes in my mind a few days ago. I want to create a chessboard pattern, a simple chessboard pattern, and before creating it I have to add a square to my top layer, maybe scale it a bit, and then add the black square above for creating the first block of our chessboard. And I can do this by just adding a repeat transform and setting this offset x and y like my width and 8, and we'll create a perfect offset. In fact, if I scale it, my offset will scale. Too big. And if I want to create the first row, I just have to create another block with repeat transform, another one, and tell to these values to be the double of these values. So I can do this by a simple math operation. And in this case, A will be x-axis offset and have to be multiplied by 2 and linked to x offset, setting this to 0, and there it is, my first two blocks. I just want to create my first row, perfect. And if I want to create other rows, I will just add another repeat transform, link this count to this count, and link my y offset to x offset, and set this to 0. And there it is, my chessboard. And I can scale it, scale down it, because of these math nodes that can allow us to manipulate it and scale it dynamically. And this is a very simple example where we can use math. We can do something more complex. Let me show you a node from a reference. Circle of circles. So in this case, this expression will adjust our artboard sides. In fact, if I have two columns and this grid spacing, our artboard sides will be the double of our grid spacing. If I add a columns, it will adjust with another artboard sides and will scale up, and all these circles can be visible in artboard. If I add another columns, my artboard will grow, another one, and so on. Thanks to this basic expression, I can change my grid spacing. Good idea, bad idea. And this can be used in a very creative way and can help our pattern to be always simple to create without always adjusting manually our output. You can find more math values right here, as I was saying before, like random node that output a random value in a specified range, or not index based on index value of your current state in another node, or value list that outputs a value from a list based on an index value. As always, you can find some reference in reference folder, like in this case. I can find this value random used in this pattern. And this is basically a math can help your pattern in Patternodes tree. Okay, let's transfer some results on Inkscape that allow us to print it with pen plotter. I will open Inkscape. Let's select these sides. Perfect for our print. And I will take, I quite like it. I forgot to remove my background. So double click and erase it. And now let's resize it a bit. Perfect. Let's print.
In conclusion, Patternode seems perfect for artists who wants to explore generative art in a node-based way, or for generative artists who wants to try a different path. Could seem a bit scary when math or more complex manipulation is involved, but with provided samples and references, it will be clear as you start to work with it. Let me know if you will try it, and if you want to share your work, you can reach me at my email or social channel. Thank you for your attention, and bye!